Ross. Hi, everyone. Hi, Frederick. Ross. Funny guy, Mike. How's everyone going? Oh, that shadow's a bit strong. I'll move this. I'll turn it off, I think. I'm constantly fiddling with lights to try and find my best side, but I haven't had much luck yet. Oh, Sensei Claudia, that's cool. I met you a long time ago, September 92. Where was that? Was that in Rochester? And you're smart, you got Soulside to sign a copy. You know, I never, ever got Soulside to sign a copy. Of course, I never thought that Soulside wouldn't be around long enough to sign it for me, but I just didn't think. I used to, when his books ran out, you know, his books stopped printing, and so he used to give people my book. So he'd always have a pile of my books sitting on his desk, and he'd sign that to them and give that as a gift. So lots of people have got signed copies, but I haven't got one, would you believe? So that'll teach me. Of Daniel, good to see you. You also asked me a question, Sensei Claudio, I think. You know, I think you're asking me, is that correct? You're asking me about where, when you do the block, you hit your arm. Is that correct? I'm not sure. Tiberius, good to see you, man, all the way from Chicago. Rob from Canada, Rob from Tassie. It's another island. Yeah, isn't that very cool? So we've got a nice little group family going. Oh, it's Chrissy. Always happy when my nephew Chrissy comes. Well, he's a nephew, but he's like a brother. Paul Kniep from Germany. Morgan, hope you had a good sleep. I'm glad everyone's coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for coming along. We'll just chat a little bit till see if we get a few more people arrive. It's cold here too, and it's kind of threatening to rain, but you know, it's a tease. It teases and it goes away. We need the rain though. So today I want to talk about Kihon, and from what I find with Kihon is the word itself is what confuses, because we look at the names of the techniques in Japanese, you know, Miyageri, Uchiuke, Jodan Uke, Chudanski, and we attach a Japanese name to that technique, which is 100% fine. But the problem is then we attach other Japanese words to concepts which aren't necessarily complete. So the word Kihon, it just means basics. But the problem is when we look at the Kihon as just the basics that we do as we train each time, and then we look at the Ido Kihon, or the moving basics, as a moving variation of that, and we kind of put a wall around it, and we don't allow ourselves to see beyond that as the basics. But the fact of the matter is that Kihon really just means well, I look at Kihon meaning pretty well anything that you do to lead to what you're trying to achieve with your karate. You know, so from the first session we're learning basics, and you know, I remember the other day I said something along the lines that Kihon contains all the answers. You just have to learn to ask the right question. Well, that doesn't really mean anything. It's just a philosophical thing, unless it does mean something. In that case, it really means everything, because you know, when you first join, when you first start, your instructor says stand like this, so you go, okay, good. And then over time you go, yeah, but when I stand like this, how should my shoulders be? And you go, no, relax. Of course. You go, you made it. It's late. All the way from Montreal, you're late. Okay. So then we go, okay, well, how should my hands be? Okay, I need to close my fist. All right, well, how do I close my fist? All right, you just close your knuckles. Yeah, but where do I put the focus? I was talking to Hugo today. We were talking about this. Or Sal, good to see you, man. Sosai was explaining principles of how to make a Seiken fist all the way until he died. He was sitting in bed once looking at his fist, and she walked in. He got a little shy. He said, even after 60 years of training, I'm still not sure if I understand how to make a fist correctly. Okay, so Kihon is everything is Kihon until it's not. So if you're doing footwork patterns and you're doing strengthening drills and you're doing repetition drills and kata and everything that you can, try and come to terms with what each of these mean to you, well, then they're all, the repetition is the Kihon, and you do your Kihon. That's all there is to it. You just keep doing your Kihon. I kind of talk about what I call the core 54. We have what I call the quintessential core 54, and that's it's an idea of fundamental training techniques and principles that you work on based on Pareto's law and the 80-20 rule. And that 54 represents about 20% of all the fundamental basics you need to know. And someone was talking to me and they said, so that means you do away with all the other basics. Well, no, you don't do away with any basics. And in fact, the number one basic of all is the basic of Shoshin no Kokoro, the spirit of the beginner, Shoshin. Shodan, first dan, Shoshin, first art. Okay, so Shoshin means the mind of the beginner. Okay, and if you can hang on to that until the day you die, you'll always be recognizing that even watching ants fight a cane toad can be a form of intuitive education. I remember once I was watching these ants maraud a cane toad, and they literally, the toads, they hop, they get all the power from the back leg, and there were these little baby cane toads, and they were hopping, and ants were swarming everywhere, and this would hop, and wherever they hopped, it was like intuition. All the ants were connecting, and they'd jump on the cane toad, then it'd hop again, and wherever it had hopped, another one had kind of bite it, and then another one had bite it, and they were little ants, so the amount of poison they're putting into it was very minute. But after a number of hops and stings or bites, it started to get groggy and it couldn't hop anymore. And then crossed my heart, the ants literally, and I'm talking about the littlest ants and a little cane toad, it wasn't yet a fully grown one, the ants would all run up its back legs and they drag its back legs out. So it had no more power to jump. I couldn't believe it. I'm watching these ants. They would attach themselves to one of the legs and pull it out, and then they'd all hold that leg down, and then another bunch would pull over to the other back leg and pull that out. So you had this cane toad, which was like it was crucified, and then they'd all maraud it and start to attack from the eyes. It was amazing. And that really taught me a lesson, that small can overcome big if you reduce the big's primary weapons. Don't get in the way of the primary weapons, So everything can teach you something if you keep open to it. And so I just wanted to talk about a few of those ideas today about, and we'll do a few basics as well after we have a warm-up, some cards. Count these. I'm getting better at shuffling too. Here we go. That didn't work out as planned. Whoops. Anyway, so I'll peel off a bunch of cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13's good. That's we'll make it 14 because 13's a quarter of the deck, isn't it? Oops. Okay, so we'll do a quarter of the deck just for fun and have a warm up, bit of a stretch. Jay, us. Oh, cool, Jay. Jay, did you tune into Masaki Kun, the Masaki Sensei, the other day, yesterday, was it, or the day before? Were you there for that one? That was so good. See, Jay's put a message there. He's mentioned one of Darren Stringer and Les Jansen's online students. That's the KRT guys that I've mentioned numerous times. I'll see if I've got a link here for them. And they recently did a session. Yes, wasn't it good? And this is, look, and it's, oops, and it's so good that you mentioned it because, let's see if we got it. I'll have to see if I can, where are we? Live, I'm trying to open it. But Wes and Darren, they're doing these fantastic live sessions, and they have guests along. And recently they had a guest by the name of Masaki Fuji. Now, I haven't trained with Masaki much. It was really great. Were you there too, Frederick? Wasn't it fantastic? For some reason, it's not letting me copy it, but I'll see if I can type it in because I do have it as a shortcut, and it'll be, I'm pretty sure it'll be this because I usually try to make my shortcuts easy to remember. Masaki came and visited me when he was 10, when his brother was coming to Australia. His parents, Masaki's dad was an uchideshi with Masoyama, and he wanted his son to come out and train in Australia with me. So he put him in Australia in a school. Oh, it's Paddy, good to see you, man. He put him in school in Australia for like 3 years whilst he trained with me. And Masaki came out when he was 10 years old. He was this little kid, and now he's like big, strong man and the All Japan heavyweight champion and everything. And he did a session there with the boys. And it was, I just really enjoyed it. It's too late for me and I'm too old, and I watched, but it's a perfect example. And it's really funny you mentioned that, Jay, because we're talking about basics and Kihon and what that means and the importance of being receptive to it, and I hate the idea that I'll ever get to a point where I'll just turn my nose up and think that I can't learn off someone like Masaki. I mean, he came to Australia and we were training. We did a training session on the beach, and I taught him, one of the katas. So if I had this problem, I wouldn't allow myself to train with Masaki. But man, oh man, it was so good. He was just teaching principles from Hiroshige Senpai. Hiroshige Senpai was my instructor at Honbu in '76, and the instructor of all the greats, Tsukamoto, Yamaki, Midori, and others that go back as well, Kazumi, and a lot of other guys over the years, which aren't as well known. So anyway, yeah, fantastic session. Did you watch it too, Rob? Yeah, so good. And they had another one too. They had a Russian guy named Max the week before. Did you tune into that one as well, Jay? I love that too. And I loved it. I have to say, I loved it because a lot of the stuff he was doing was very similar, almost identical to a lot of the stuff we do. And if that happens, it's always a good thing. It's not very often that you find agreement with what you tend to discover upon yourself. But we've been doing a lot of those switch principles and body coordination drills and everything that he was doing. We've been doing a long time since back in the 80s. And so it was so good to see him do them. But the way he teaches too, Max, I'm talking about, Russian Max, go on to that KRT, man. They have some great stuff there. And try and rewatch it again, Jay. And if you can't find the link, let me know. I'll have the link somewhere. In fact, I'm going to put one in. I don't know if this is it. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is accurate. Okay, and that should cover it. Try that one. Maybe it's not. Oh, I just tried it and it comes up payday loans. Okay, so definitely not that. So scratch that one. But anyway, yeah, look for that. Look for that link with Max. Fantastic. So guys, let's we'll get a little bit of a roll. Jay, I missed that one. Yeah, Leo, good to see you, man. Yeah, Hiroshige Sensei's training techniques are great. I agree with you. Very influential and very innovative. And the thing that I love about it, if you watch that session with Masaki, normally the formula that Darren and Wes, someone's mowing the lawn out the front, Darren and Wes take is they do techniques. So we'll do a combination. But Masaki just said, all right, well, that's all good, but I'm going to do something different. I'm going to show you some Kihon, some fundamental drills that will help you with your body control, body coordination, spinal manipulation, all these sort of things to make your technique better. And that's exactly what Kihon is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's what Kihon is about. So let's have a little bit of a warm-up. We'll do a few cards. Shout out today to my buddy Hugo Perez. He's joining in. I got the TriStar Gym shirt on. If you're not familiar with TriStar Gym in Montreal, it's one of the premier mixed martial arts gyms. I trained there for years. Did I say years? No, I actually just visited once and bought the T-shirt because I'm a fanboy. But they're a grappling, stand-up fighting gym. That's where the great GSP, Georges St. Pierre, did most of his training. And the head striking coach there, Sandro, how are you, man? Sandro Fair, he's a Kyokushin guy. So it's really nice that TriStar Gym have got a Kyokushin connection there, which I really appreciate. And I appreciate my buddy Hugo Perez from Montreal. Well, he's just outside of Montreal. I know he's going to bust me for that. But anyway, Montreal's much easier to remember. But anyway, he took me along. He knew I was a fanboy, so he took me and I was able to go and get the T-shirt. So let's have a little bit of a stretch, warm up, few cards, and let's talk about basics and do some basics. The T-shirt's cool on the back too. Check this out. I'm probably going to see it myself. You don't get a chance to see it. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for joining in. Let's go. Knees, itch, knee, sun, chi, go, hunter, itch, knee, sun, chi, go. Squatting, itch, knee, sun, chi, knee, sun, chi, sun, knee, sun, chi. The other thing about Darren and Wes is Darren's flexible. They both are, but Darren does some great stretching exercises every session too, so try and tune into that. They're really good sessions. Squatting, squat down nice and low. It's interesting when you squat like this, if your feet turn out, see how your feet are out? It's easier to do it when your feet turn out. As your flexibility improves, straighten your feet. So ideally, you want to be able to do it so that your feet are straight. Okay? Nice and deep. Hands down. Stretching the legs up. Hips itch. Knee. Sun. Chi. Hunter itch. Knee. Sun. Chi. Double shoulder width. Right hand. Twist. Itch. Knee. Sun. Chi. Go. Go. Itch. Touch. Shoot and chew. Middle itch. Knee. Sun. Knee. Knee. Sun. Sun. Knee. Sun. Chi. Knee and sun. To the right. Left. middle. Feet a little, bend the right leg, loose. Nice and deep. Let gravity do the work. Don't lose principles that we've talked about, like the tanden. So in this technique, remember, the tanden is connected to letting gravity go. So put your consciousness in the tanden and let your weight go underside and just feel the muscles relax. Keeping your weight underside, keeping the single point. There are great concepts of body dynamism, I guess you could say, that I picked up from Aikido. Not that I've ever trained Aikido, I would never say I have, but I was very influenced by their principles of movement. Very beautiful. Turn, hip forward, working the hip flexors here. And turn again. Once again, breathe out, tanden, consciousness and tanden, weight lower side, everything on the inside, just relax down. Knee, other side. Knee, hip flexor, push the hip forward. Sun. Look for that release. By that I mean if you concentrate your breath deep, after about 3 Ujjayi breath, after about 3 breaths, you'll feel the release. I think it must be the fascia or something like that, where everything just relaxes and opens a little bit more. And legs straight again. Coming in a little, left shoulder pushing forward. Breathe in and out. Breathe in, out. Breathe in, out. In, out. Nice and deep. And me, legs hitch. Knee. Sun. Cheek. Go. Draw. Nice and deep again. And coming up, your Migi Sanjin that's good. Hip. Marshu Edge. Knee. Sun to the left. She, nice and relaxed. around the spine. Up. Hitch. Hard. Not it. Shake the legs. Arms forward. Hitch. Knee. Sun and back. Hitch. Knee. Sun. So I've peeled off a quarter of the deck. Let's check the messages. What's Damien? Herman. Good on you, Herman. Thanks for coming, guys. Just in time for a quarter of the deck. I'll finish the training in an hour, so I'll do the rest then. Got group training in an hour. We're back with small groups now in Australia. Hope you're the same. Torbjörn, my friend in Norway, was just saying you're allowed to go back into training now in Norway, and they have they're allowed groups of 20, I think he said. So that's good news as well. There we go. Okay, here we go. Deck of cards. First card, 6 push-ups. 6 push-ups. Making goodies. Fish, sun, key, go, hook. Next one. Oh, 10 burpees. Straight off the top. Ready? 10 each. 8. See if we go quick today. 3. Go. Look. Hitch. Kihon, do it up there. Touch. Good. 2. Next one. 4 sit-ups. Hitch. Knee. Sun. Sheep. Go. That's one too many. 4. We'll catch up now. 10 sit-ups. Hitch. Knee. Sun. Sheep. Go. Go. Hitch. Touch. Go. 2. Next one. 9. I made a mistake on the 4. We're catching up now. 9 more sit-ups. Ready, Hitch. Knee. Sun. Sheep. Go. Look. Hitch. Touch. 2. Next one. 12 sit-ups. What's my heart or shoulder? Hitch. Knee. Sun. Sheep. Go. Look. Hitch. Touch. 2. 2. Hitch. Knee. What is that? That's like 35 in a row. 11. Sorry, remember from here into push-ups. So 11 push-ups. Cross your feet. Rock forward. Kick the feet back. 11. Hitch. He. Sun. He. Go. Go. He. Touch. Q. Hitch. Talk about 35 sit-ups in a row. Don't even think that that's a lot, of course. Realistically, you should be doing like sets of 50 and stuff like that. Okay, 6 burpees. 6 burpees, let's go. Hitch. Knee. Sun. She. Go. Go. Push. Next one. More sit-ups. 3 sit-ups. Hitch. Knee. Sun. It's easy. King. Gloves. Okay, from here, no hands. Getting up. Pendulum. Tuck. Push the hips. Stand. Watch when I stand too. Watch what I do with my leg. So I'm here, sitting down. I pendulum. Oh. Pendulum. Tuck my leg. Rock forward and I watch the back leg. I straighten it. Okay, that's really important for realistic fighting too, because if I have to get up in a hurry when my opponent's trying to keep me down, and I need to drive energy forward hard. Well, if I don't adjust that back leg, if I don't go here and then there, what happens is I have no base to stop him from driving me over. So as soon as I come up, I change my base, and now I'm in a position to drive forward if I want to. What was it? 13 squats. Pitch, knee, son, she, go, look, pitch, cut, go, pitch, knee, son, get on there, loose. 3 more squats, pitch, knee, son. 7 sit-ups. When you sit-ups, half the deck of sit-ups in the first quarter. Knee, son, she, go, look, pitch, touch. Oh, how was it? 7. 1 too many again. Can't help enthusiasm. Okay, push-ups. 10 push-ups. So I have to tell you, 10 push-ups. Pitch, knee, son, she, go, look, pitch, touch, you. Last one. 4 burpees. Okay, last 4. Then have a drink. If you want, you come back. 2, 3, 4. And there you go. Beautiful. How'd you go? All right, good to see you back. Okay, thanks, Hugo. I know you're out of Montreal, but Montreal's the one that's on the map. Yep, that's definitely so, Chrissy. Let me have a quick count of that from the top. Oh, 1, 0, +1, square, minus, square, plus, square, plus. No, it ended up being +1. So maybe we would have hung in there. That's an inside joke between Chris and me. Spent a lot of time together. Chris was one of my Uchideshi for a while. He's also my family. Okay. So anyway, talking about Kihon. Well, like I said, Kihon's like, it contains all the answers. We just have to find the right questions. And the only way to find the right questions is with training. It's that simple. You can't imagine. I've spent a lot of time coaching footy teams with tackling drills. I'm not a footy coach. I'm talking about rugby league, and Aussie rules. I'm not talking about soccer. I have no idea. But the principles that I was working with footy teams on in terms of tackling was all about the fine detail, you know, and I just want to get these guys to work the fine detail. And after a couple of seasons, they go, no, we got it. It's okay. We don't need you anymore. And I get word back from my mates on the footy team. What's happened is the strength and conditioning coach has decided he's doing the tackling because he was watching us do the drills for, you know, a couple of seasons. Well, it's like, please give me a break. And it just doesn't work. So if you imagine that you can ask the right questions about Kihon without actually doing Kihon, well, you know, it just doesn't work that way. And you see that when guys start, you know, trying to teach stuff that they're not really familiar with. One of the rules I always have is that even if it's really super simple, I try not to teach it unless I'm really familiar with it. It doesn't matter if it seems simplistic, because even the most simplistic stuff can seem to go deeper and can seem or can provide deeper answers if you have an understanding of what you're doing. But even the simplest stuff is impossible to do. The way you're conveying it is incorrect. Auntie Annie would always say the answers are in the repetition of Kihon. Yeah, it's so true. Sometimes people equate basic with easy. Big mistake. Yeah, indeed. Excuse me. Just grab a towel. That's really true, because Kihon is not, there's Kihon and Kantan. In Japanese, the word Kantan means simple in terms of basic. You know, basic, it's very basic, it's very simple. But Kihon, in terms of Dode. Dode is a foundation. That Kihon is really important. And, the Kihon, like Hanshi Anil says there, the answer in the repetition. So I used to say all the time, just people are asking questions, and he'd give the answer, and he'd be polite, but he'd also always finish by saying, if you train hard enough, you get these answers yourself. This stuff. So I'm going to run through some of the stuff. When you, for example, you take that punch, and there's a beautiful quote by Bruce Lee: when you start, a punch is just a punch, but when you get into it, a punch is so much more than a punch. And then when you master it, the punch just becomes a punch again. Well, that middle part is where the basics, the Kihon is. You look at the punch, you break it down, and you realize that even your little toe is not arbitrary. The way you have your posture, the neck, the way you hold your diaphragm, the lower spine, everything working around the spine, the relaxed shoulders, the waki, closing your armpit. Something as simple as closing your armpit. Every now and then I'll go to a seminar and you'll see people at very high level who still haven't got the most fundamental thing of closing their armpit. People really don't understand what the waki, the Japanese word for waki, underneath the armpit, what it even means, So the basics really is an ongoing thing. And if you have the mind right, so you never get bored. People go, I had enough of basics. I've even got friends who broke away from Kyokushin, started their own style based on no basics. They forget that what made them so good with it was the years of repetition of basics, and what happens is that for some reason they really never get any depth of development in their students because they have no foundation, you see. So the basics, you should equate it to building a base. It's not a word that describes a series of 30 techniques. It's a word that describes a principle of training that is building your base. And training goes from 100% compliance to 0 compliance, okay? And all the way from 100% compliance all the way to total non-compliance, right up till that last 1%, where there's even a shred of compliance, you're working on basics, okay? It's only under pressure against a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you that you really discover the depth of your basics, all right? And you can practice a technique, repetition, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, and if a situation ever presents itself, you'll know whether that basic is part of you, because anyone who's ever been in a real altercation will know that there is no predicting what they're going to do. You could start working statistics and say this and that, and 90% of the time they're going to do this, but it could be a grab, it could be a headbutt, it could be a lot of things. So your basics will allow you to respond to that initial explosive 1 or 2 seconds, and then what comes after that depends on how well you've controlled that first couple of seconds, and that'll give you space, okay? Give you a little bit of space to think and move, So we have the 30 Kihon basics that we do, all these basics, and we go through those, but they're really just a part of the basics. Then you combine that with the moving basics and the concept of the different fundamental coordination basics that you use and so on, and you come up with a series of maybe 300, 400, 250, whatever it is, fundamentals that you'll need up until your showdown or so. And I put together what I called the Core 54, the quintessential Core 54. I call it quintessential. It's just the name of our dojo. It's just a play on my name. But basically within that Core 54, it's all basics. So it's not a matter of replacing the 30 basics with my own 54 basics. It's using the 30 basics and understanding what every principle about them means by applying the Core 54. So the Core 54, you've got 5 stances. We have 16 stances, okay? But you'll find that 90% of everything comes down to basically 5 stances. The Sanshin, Kibadachi, Kokutsudachi, Zenkutsudachi, and your Kumite stance. All the others are just things that you do in the kata along the way to develop stronger lower body and body movement. Okay, then you have the footwork patterns. You have the splits, the left-right splits. There was a great video of Gary O'Neill teaching the Japanese team the split work recently. I saw somebody send a link to that. So you have the splits, the left and right split, which is just, that's something I think which is our dojo's contribution to Kyokushin, because I know it was never done in Kyokushin, certainly in my time, and it was our introduction to Kyokushin. And I was very influenced in that by another friend of mine, Tony Quinn, who was a kickboxer, and just one of the most blindingly fast martial artists. And his movement planted the seed for this concept of how I can apply it in Kyokushin, and we called it the split because of the way the legs move. So I'm you know, I bet London to a brick that that's our original stuff. Doesn't mean other people aren't finding it. But also they have the sabaki footwork, the idea of sabaki, where you just move around and don't take things head on. You just want to keep moving around. And then you've got fundamental footworks like oyashi. Oyashi is the normal step work, so stepping forward, stepping to the side, so on. And then you have the okuriashi, which is okuriashi. It's like oyashi is where you move the front foot first. Okay, bang. Going backwards, bang. Bang. Okay. When you move left in oyashi, the left foot moves first. You combine oyashi with sabaki, and then you'll have turn off. If I want to head that way again, move that foot first, and then rotate around and do a half shuffle back. Okay? Okuriashi is not where the front foot moves first, it's where the back foot moves first. So okuriashi is this sort of movement there, back. I call this a half shuffle because the back foot comes up halfway, then the front foot takes over. And that's a very, very deceptive movement. That sort of movement there where you can almost, I used to use it as a fake front kick. I go, bang, throw the front kick, or move your feet, kind of throw the front kick. Then I throw the front kick, put my foot back, and lead out with a lead hand. That was very effective. And then you've got the full shuffle where you actually don't just stop halfway, you actually drive all the way through. So that's really important, getting a lot of power. I've used this more than once where I needed to drive someone backwards. This is a good argument why in when you do taikyoku, for example, there are two ways to do the first and second movement. The first one is you step out, and then your hand stays there as you step through. The second one is you step out, the hand goes up, and you move, and they both have application. The first one is a speed technique. So I'm coming from here, I'm stepping back, and I move straight away. Nearly fell over because I've got stones there, so I have to stop quickly. And the second one, where the hand comes up, it's like I block, but this guy's coming in on me. So boom, my hand goes up there. 1, 2, 1, 2, and I hold him at bay. And even though we step through, this is called fumiashi in Japanese, where I step all the way through. That's fumiashi. In reality, I've never used fumiashi in a real situation against a non-compliant opponent, but I've used the half shuffle and the full shuffle a lot. And the way that I use it is I'll come in here, so I'll come in and try and overwhelm me. I step back, strong stance, that hand goes up, right up there, and then I'll do the full shuffle like that, and you drive all the way through. And even if they throw a drink in your face or you get something in your eyes, your hand is right there, and your proprioception will tell you where your own hand is. You can always find your own hand. Okay? So if my hand's right there on his neck, all I need to do is punch right from my own hand. So from that position, step back, boom, he starts to charge in, lean away so you get the full length of your arm, so it's harder for him to punch you. And then I drive through and I shoot the punch straight at the end of my arm. And then what you have is the okuriashi, and then you have kosaho, is the fifth footwork pattern we work with. Like that, you do the switch. Well, they're Kihon. They're fundamental Kihon. I'm going to put my Judd Reed jacket on because it's really quite cool today. So those footwork patterns are just as much a part of Kihon as anything. People don't spend enough time on them. They do the basics and then they think that transfers into Kihon, into Kumite. Well, it doesn't. You've got to work any drill or training that you do to improve your ability when you get to the zero compliance is Kihon. Anything you're doing where you're not working in terms of a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you is a form of Kihon. Kosaho, yes, let me write for you, Claudia. Kosaho, that's a switch. Okay, so they're just fundamental footwork patterns that we have that we work on over and above the 30 basics, over and above some of the moving basic combinations and so on. And then we have the hand techniques. Well, you have about 20 hand techniques, about 15 of them. I'm only guessing, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but about 15 of your basic techniques to hand. You've got 5 blocks and you've got about 10 kicks. So we reduce them down. We do eight key punches, 8 key kicks. So you've got, for the 8 key punches, you've got the front hand, whether you're going low to the body or low to the height of the head, okay? You've got a hook. And remember, it's a Kihon. So just because you learn to do the hook in a certain set way, boom, 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 whack, there's your hook. Okay, well, it may be that your hook is simply, as he throws the punch, you come in here and you hook underneath. You hook underneath here, come back over the top again, over there, boom. So pretty well, realistically, any technique that teaches you to use your body around the spine, I call it like the discus thrower, that statue. You know, you come here, boom, and you get the elbow high and you throw the punch. Okay, so that's an important one of the 8 basic techniques too that we do all the time. We also use the uppercut, is also a really important punch that rips the body, where it's different to the hook because of the angle and the way your body moves is different again. The kagiski, called the kagiski, like the right hand body hook, which is different because it's off the back hand. You see, if you're right-handed, your right hand's back, so your left hand is the liver shot. The right hand is what we call the kagiski. It has a different shape to it. If you're left-handed, well, it's the opposite. Your left hand becomes the kagiski. Okay, and then we add the elbow onto that. Okay, they're the fundamental 8 punches, 8 hand techniques, and then we have 8 kicks. We have a front kick, whether it's a pushing front kick or a snap front kick. We have moshigiri to the leg, to the body, to the head. I treat them 3 separate techniques because they're 3 separate shapes and setups. You know, obviously, the better you get, the more you disguise everything. Okay, so the shapes and setups will change so that it becomes harder and harder to for people to see. And then you've got the back kick, you've got the spin back kick, the knee kick, and the axe kick. And I think they're all really, really valid. And then we add on to those, we add on the 8 defensive shapes. I call them defensive shapes. And you remember from the 7 stages of Kumite mastery, we talk about where we work on defensive shapes. And it's really important to have that concept of defensive shapes because everything depends on your ability to survive. Okay, your ability to be there at the end. I'm just looking for an illustration that I did. May not be able to find it. Never mind. But everything depends on your ability to survive, you know. So it's like, there's two great biblical quotes, by the way. I'm getting biblical now, but my first, the one that I love most is Ecclesiastes 7:8, which says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. Okay, how many times have you seen guys come flying out in tournaments, look like they're going to kill the world, and after 2 minutes, they can't even hold their hands up again. And the guy who was just waiting just goes pop and hits them once. Okay, so always better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the other one I really like is Psalm 144, which starts off, praise be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for battles and my fingers for war. Okay, so if you want to be a peacemaker, train hard, because like Saul says, that justice without strength is impotent. You really need to be able to stand up for yourself. Jay, I have to go now. Good on you, buddy. I'll see you at the KRT session. Yep. Okay. Good on you. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for coming along. Okay, so you work those 8 basic shapes. I call them shapes. So it's a survival mindset. When they throw the jab, how do I cover it? Boom. I just cover it like that. Boom. How do I cover a right cross? Well, you can cover it like that, or you can cover it like that. Okay. What about the hook? Well, I go under the hook, or I cover like that, or I bring my hand a little higher, or I just move back. I have to have these concepts of survival against them. The right hand, the body shot, you know, how do I deal with the body shot? How do I deal with the overhand right? How do I deal with the rip? How do I deal with the kagi ski? How do I deal with a front kick? How do I deal with a front kick, push kick? How do I deal with a back kick, bang? How do I deal with that back kick? How do I deal with a maishigeri thigh kick, maishigeri body kick, maishigeri Jordan? Okay, these 16 key defensive shapes against the 16 primary hand and foot attacks. If you work them as part of your Kihon idea, what they do is they help you build a base of good solid technique over time. Okay, so I've got a few notes here that I want to look at. And the other thing too that you'll find is all basics focuses on what I call BRATS. Remember BRATS, B-R-A-T-S. I've spoken about that, which is your balance, relaxation, accuracy, timing, and speed. You never want to work towards power. You work towards BRATS, and the power will naturally manifest itself. But when people work towards power, they tend to overbake the muscle side of it. They muscle it too much. And it's an ongoing thing. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, sometimes big guys will get away with it forever. You know, if you're 6'5" and 120 kilos, you can generally get away with an awful lot of things if your technique's not as good as someone else. But if you're a 5'6" and 71 kilograms Midori, okay, in the 5th World Tournament, well, you're not going to get away with much trying to muscle it against guys who are almost sometimes double your body weight. Okay, so you can get away with a lot when you're big and strong, but you need to overcome that. And the way to overcome it is with BRATS, of course. And the other thing too is, if you think about, there isn't, like, let's look at, for example, okay, so let's look at Jordan Uke. Well, we think Jordan Uke, first of all, we got the line of the block, and we spoke about point for attack, line for defense. Okay, you got the circle and point, and defense, you have the line and point. Okay, and you're on this circle now, what you're doing, you're generating power for the line, and the line starts at the shoulder all the way down to the hand. So where you pick up that attack is not important. For the beginner, it's all about getting the arm right. And then one day when the arm starts to get right, they go, well, how are my legs? Oh, I better bite in my toes a bit, better bend my knees. Is my weight distributed correctly? Better bite in. Hara, tanden, boom. Now all of a sudden, the upper block is so, you realize how important the legs and the foundation is for the basic techniques, even upper blocks. Okay, or even so. One thing that is really, really very, very important, and especially in martial arts, is the basic training develops your lower body. Pretty well all technique is probably the training, if it's done correctly, is about training the lower body from the tongue down through the hips, the legs, the knees, the ankles. Even Oishi-chan says even the bottom of your feet gets trained if your stance is correct. Okay, but when you're bored and your brain floats away, well, then your concentration floats up, and you lose the rooting to the ground, that digging down into the ground. And that's a really important concept of basics that a lot of people overcome. You know, you should never the only reason you get bored with basics is if you're not concentrating enough. And I was talking to my buddy Hugo this morning about Uchideshi training, you know, and I was talking about how I remember one day thinking, today I'm going to concentrate 100%, not 99.9%. I'm going to do everything in my power from the beginning of training until training used to go for 2.5 hours. I was going to 100% concentrate on everything I did. And I must have looked a bit funky because, you know, there's no talking to anyone. It's fully focused. How's my grip, my stance, my breathing? And I can tell you now that it was one of the most profound training experiences I'd ever had in my life, which doesn't tell you much about my concentration until that point, but you get my drift, you know. Kihon without concentration is pretty pointless, you know. It's not fulfilling at all. Okay, so there's what I call the second layer of Kihon, and this is what I'm getting to. The second layer of Kihon, we have the 30 basics, we have those techniques, but the second layer is the basics of those basics. And of course you have the flexibility, but then you have the lower stance. How should my feet be? Are my toes biting in? Where is my concentration in my legs? My knees are bent, but not too bent. My legs are strong, but not too tense. I have my spine and my Patreon family. Once again, a shout out. If you're not a Patreon family, why not? Come and join in. Have a look at the Patreon page, but the link will be below. But I'm preparing some great stuff now for the Patreon family, a series of mails, and one of them is about those Bandha locks. We talked about the spinal locks. And when I started to apply the spinal locks to my training as well, I used to find that sometimes standing for a long time on a hard surface, my back would get sore during basics. But once you apply the Bandha locks to it, that soreness goes away overnight. It's quite profound, you know. And so you have this second layer of Kihon, which is the flexibility, which is the foundation principles behind your basics. So I just mentioned the sen, the line. You defend from the line, you attack from the point. Whether it's an elbow, you're hitting with the tip of the elbow or the point of the elbow. When you defend with the whole of the arm. Even when you're doing Tendo, when you block, you're coming up. If you can imagine that coming, you're not going to catch it like that. What you're doing is you're coming up and you bisect the line from his shoulder to the target. Okay, so if you think in terms of line bisection, he has a shoulder and he's whacking you on the nose. Well, all I need to do is bisect that line from his shoulder to his arm, and I neutralized his attack. Well, that's a second level Kihon. That's a principle that you're thinking about when you do Kihon. Am I just going through the motions with my muscles, or am I concentrating on the second layer of Kihon, where I'm seeing that I'm using the line of my arm, I'm blocking up, and then I'm throwing the punch. Okay, up, I'm using the line of my arm, I'm covering my center line, I'm using the whole arm, I'm getting the angles correct, everything, so that I can set it up. That's what I call the second layer. You know, and the three keys, as usual, I talk too much, run out of time, but the three primary keys for Kihon. First one is Shoshin no kokoro. Have the open mind and realize that no matter who it is, you'll learn something. I used to have this guy who would come into the dojo, bring his nephew. His nephew was wheelchair bound. So I used to work. It's surprising how many people in wheelchairs actually get picked on and bullied and have their possessions stolen and so on. But anyway, he used to come in and he was a nice bloke, but fairly simple. He goes, "Oh, there's really great technique." And I go, "Okay, what is it?" And he'd show me something and I go, "Show me that again." And he'd show me the most amazing things. He never trained in his life, but he just found himself in a little bit of hot water because he was a taxi driver. And some of the things he used to come up with, well, if I wasn't receptive, I would have gone, no, show me next time, you know, and it just changes everything when you're receptive. That's the first one. The second one is Tundan. Think in terms of Tundan. And like Clarence was saying from South Africa, how Kenny Ayton Bogart, one of the greatest of all time, was training with Soulside. And Soulside just had him moving and walking with his consciousness 100% focused on the Tundan, wherever you go. Some martial arts place more emphasis than others, like the Aikido that I did with Tohei Koichi Sensei. He had those 4 points. Extend your ki, put the consciousness at the single point, think underside, and have your weight down, weight underneath like that. So they focus on the idea of the Tundan more than others, but I used to emphasize it all the time. Tundan. Okay, so that's the second fundamental key to good basics. The third fundamental key, and I think if you can get these three in your brain, write them on the wall, write them in your hand, write them on the back of your backpack if you like, but remind yourself, one, the beginner's mind, 100% receptive, no matter who it is or who you're working with. One of the worst things you can do is a fifth dan or a sixth dan or a third dan, whatever, is when you get matched up with a white belt or a blue belt or yellow belt, think, this is silly. I'm way too good for this guy. You know, why did I get matched up with this guy? Because I can tell you now, one of the best things about working with a lower rank is it will test your ability to actually describe in depth, with the finest of detail, the technique you're meant to be doing. Two, it will determine whether you have the right mindset to be doing exactly what you've been told to do at that time. So if you're at a seminar, someone's taking the class, and even if the technique that they're teaching is a technique which you learned 30 years ago, is your mind in the right place so that you don't try to infatuate over your wisdom and greatness and try to teach this blue belt something else? Okay, it's a test of how well you're able to do what you're told, and it doesn't matter who is taking the class. When they're in charge of the class, you have to be receptive. You have to have that beginner's mind. Okay, and the third thing is what I think is so vital, and that is always know what, where, and how. Know what you're hitting with. What is the technique you're doing? I'm doing a back fist. Where is my back fist? Okay, how am I doing the back fist? Upper block. What am I blocking with? The line. Know how you're doing it. So I'm using the line here. I'm not using the line here. I'm not using the line here or here. I'm using it here. And how do I do it? What's the movement that I have involved in that? How can I transfer that? Know what I'm hitting with, where I'm hitting to, and how I'm hitting. Okay? What I'm hitting with is a punch. Where I'm hitting to, I'm aiming right on the jaw. I'm hitting him in the face, right? Well, no, I'm hitting him on the jaw, right? No, I'm hitting him on the pimple, right? No, I'm hitting him on the middle of the pimple, right? No, I'm hitting him on the hair in the middle of the, no, I'm hitting him on the tip of the split end in the middle of the hair, in the middle of the pimple, in the middle of the jaw, on the face. So that way, if you miss the split end, you're going to hit the pimple. Miss the pimple, you're going to hit the jaw. You hit the jaw, you're going to hit the face, okay? The finer the detail, the clearer the process. So know what you're hitting with. When you throw those basic punches, don't just be going, hey, yeah, come on, Kihon, because in an hour I'm going to be home and I'm going to have that nice spaghetti, okay? Concentrate. Am I hitting exactly with the right fist in the right way to the right target, okay? Those three keys are everything in Kihon. Can't emphasize enough how important it really is. Okay, let me just have a quick look here before I go. I know I'll run out of time again. I always talk too much. If you have any questions, put them down too. Okay. And the other thing too that I find is, you know, we talked about the 7 stages of Kumite, and one of those stages is what I call my karate. Okay, it's what you're what you're doing with the my karate is you're actually taking your karate and maturing it to the point where you start to fit to your own body and do your own thing. But that's not an invitation to do that at like a white belt. And it's especially not an invitation to do that when you're training under someone else, okay? You have to develop my karate. You have to develop the go-to techniques and the go-to movements and concepts and the go-to kata and all this. You create a body of knowledge based on your mastery of Kihon. So my karate doesn't mean you're going, well, I don't like the way they do that block, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. That's not my karate. My karate is an extension of your mastery of Kihon, okay? It's not an alternative to it, okay? So that, I think that's really important to remember that. So anyway, I've got to know. So ask what we hit with, where we hit to, how we lock it. In lockdown, in this COVID lockdown, we have more time. So do that. Just ask yourself, go through your basics. I guarantee it'll change the way you approach basics. Is that we have time in the lockdown. Go through the basics and you go, okay, what am I hitting with? Where am I hitting to? How am I hitting? And you take that with you in every training session that you do, and it will really start to make a difference. Okay, if you're a senior grade, like I love the fact that Mike Clark comes along. For those who don't know Mike Clark, he's the author of, here we go, he just wrote a message. He's the author of some great books, and Rochelle there has actually been reading one of his books. But Mike's been around forever, and yet here he is with us all, joining in and contributing and so on. Well, that's the attitude. Us, Kieran, good to see you, man, my good buddy Kieran from Brizzy. So the right attitude is always Shoshin no kokoro, okay, the heart of the beginner. Shoshin o wasurezu, used to say, Shoshin o wasurezu, never forget the mind of the beginner, okay? The second thing is tanden. All movement generates through tanden. The third thing is know what I'm hitting with, where I'm hitting to, how I'm hitting. Ask yourself what with, how, and where to. All right. Sensei Claudio, thank you for the session, guys. I hope Kihon card every day. Thank you. Yes, good. Daniel, thanks for coming, buddy. Always nice to see you. Thanks, everyone, again. I always look, I literally, I could talk for another hour, but then I have a clock there going, dun, dun, dun. You need to stop. People need to go. Okay, it's getting late in Canada. Thanks, Frederick. Us, thank you again. Al, thank you very much. Thank you, Dave. Dave Avola, nice to see your name there, man. Anyway, look, I hope you take something out of that. Remember the three main things. Beginner's mind at the tanden, and what with, where to, and how. They're the keys that make it all difference. My next session, Claudio, is on Wednesday at the same time. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every week online. But guys, get along. I had these, I'm going to try something here and see if I can actually get these links, because here we go. This might work. Let me come back here. I'm going to do something here, and if it doesn't work, we're in trouble. Boy, oh boy, it may not have worked. Yeah, oh boy. Look, I've put a bunch of links there. I just don't think I don't think I better send that, because it's kind of destroyed the links. But anyway, look, get along to the KRT, look up KRT session. I'll leave that one in because I do have that link, and that's the very last link I put on. So I'll delete the mess that's followed, and I'll leave that link for you. But the KRT session with Masaki Fuji, it was great fun, and I guarantee, doesn't matter who you are, you get something out of that. It was just a great session. Daniel, thanks for your kind words, buddy, but you've got a family to attend to. Us, Torben. Yes, we should keep going. I mean, if you want, I can keep going with basics. I literally touched the surface there, and it's the key to everything. Like I said, you have 0 compliance, you have 100% compliance. Training starts at 100% compliance, and it moves progressively with safety and agreement with your partner to zero compliance. Okay. Now, the problem with Kyokushin is it's almost impossible. In fact, I would say it's virtually impossible to go to zero compliance with a training partner because of the impact. But there is one great, beautiful weapon that we have in the arsenal of training that allows you to go 100%, and that's called the tap. Okay, so anything where there is an impact involved, so you're working techniques out of kata, I'm doing joint manipulation, I'm doing chokes from behind, anything that involves control with non-impact, you have the tap, and I 100% guarantee you can go 100% fully non-compliant because your opponent has the tap. And that tap tells you two things. One, it says, yes, your technique is working. Two, it tells you that your opponent needs you to stop right now before you break the arm or the wrist, or choke them or whatever. Okay? And good training. And, you know, I spoke about that. I checked out all the techniques of Soul Size books and put them in the 5 ranges. And 28% of the techniques, 28% of the techniques that Soul Size gave in his books were legal techniques for tournaments. The other 72% were not legal, and they involved grabs, chokes, groundwork, throws, arm bars, the works, elbow strikes, everything. It's 72% of everything the Soul Size taught had nothing to do with tournaments. Okay, and those 72% are all tappable. They let you tap. And I tell you, any martial art that has the tap is effective because it can take you all the way to 100%. And I really mean that. You know, there's some martial arts that I think tap too much. They tap when they don't need to tap. And let me get that for a beginning level, you need to tap earlier than later. But I mean, if you're talking about 2 high-level, high-ranking guys in any fighting art, they shouldn't be tapping until it's 100% controlled and at the end of total non-compliance. But some arts will tap even when there are ways to get out. I've seen that happen a lot. So anyway, guys, look, I'd love to come back again. And like Torbjörn says, let's maybe do this again on Wednesday. If you like, leave a message. And, you know, the messages are hard to put on the YouTube straight away whilst the YouTube is processing this thing. But if you can leave a message, you want me to go a little bit more deeply into Kihon, I can do that. If you like, I can break down every single technique and we can look at the key points that you need to be focused on. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it very much. And I'll see you Wednesday. Us, Paul, thank you. Thank you for another great session. Good on you. Us, Claudio, thank you. And I hope that answered your question about where do you block when you block with the, I think you asked about the Soto Uke, where do you block? Okay, all the way, because you have no control over where they throw the punch. Okay, so if my brain says I must block here and they block down there, well then, you know, it's a block. The block is a line, it's not a point. Okay, so Rochelle said, yeah, Torbjörn said the same. So let's maybe keep going with Kihon on day. We'll look right into it, and that'll help get it all sorted. Thank you, everyone. Us, appreciate it. Damien, Us, thank you. Raj, Us, thank you. Thank you very much. Mike, appreciate it very much. And Raj, all the way from Nepal. Dhanyabad. Thank you very much. See you all. Us.